Hey, I met with a girl on Monday and I was with her for a whole week. Now, you remember this story. Now, you're going to give this guy a solution and you're also going to learn something very interesting. So, like you've seen here, I have my board here and a pen. You might as well get a pen and a paper because you're going to learn something very interesting. Now, from the statement, now, let me just read the whole thing. Hey, I met with a girl on Monday and was with her for a whole week. On Wednesday, she took P2 pills. Then the week that followed on Tuesday, she started having, I just assumed it was a she. She started having pregnancy signs and we tested on Wednesday. And indeed, she was pregnant. Now, my question is, how fast did this happen? Or maybe she had sex before we met. Please confirm if it's possible. Now, let's see. First of all, we're going to have a quick demonstration here. It's going to be very interesting, by the way. Now, this is Monday. Let's say it goes all the way to Sunday. So this is the first week they are together. Now we have the second week when the testing is also being done. Now this is Wednesday. Also, this is Wednesday. Now this is when she took P2. P2 is an emergency pill. Now, I'm assuming you took the green one that usually promise that it can even prevent the pregnancy even after ovulation, because most others usually just do the only thing, which is delaying the ovulation. Now, if you so happen to meet your girl during the ovulation, it means that any other pill will not work. But this one, P2, which is Postina 2, kinda claims, I'm not sure, that it can even prevent you getting pregnant even after ovulation, because it delays, it inhibits the movement of the sperms all the way up to the uterine cavity. So by that, it's able to prevent you from getting pregnant even after ovulation. Now, what you're going to rely here on is P2, you took it after Monday, this is Tuesday, so you took it on Wednesday. Now, meaning this is that day. Now remember, the effectiveness of emergency pill usually diminish over time, meaning that the closer to when the thing was happening, I'm assuming on Monday, that's when you met your girl and you had an intercourse. Now I'm assuming that this is Monday, you get your intercourse here. Now you add 3 days. So 3 days is the maximum that you're supposed to extend over. So the closer to the actual day, the higher the effectiveness. Is that English? Anyway, what I mean is, if you take it closer to when the activity actually happened, it means that it's going to be more effective than when you take it away. Like, for example, on Wednesday, it might be less effective. So you are still gambling on the chances that it might not have worked. Or let's just assume that this is not everything just worked. The ovulation was not here. I'm also going to give you a very nice trick that you can use anytime, and anyone can use this. And you can be able to tell exactly the day you conceived. And from there, you can be able to tell between now who made you pregnant. Now, one thing you have to understand is there is something that usually happens. After fertilization, the movement of this fertilized zygote all the way to the uterine cavity usually takes 7 days, sometimes 8. So we are going to take 7, the least amount. So 7 days. So you meet her on Monday, fertilization takes place. So what is happening here is all the way up to, let's say, the next Monday here, they are just traveling. They are not attached to anything. And what we measure to know that you are pregnant is HCG, human chorionic gonadotrophin hormone. So this is a hormone which is usually produced by the zygote after fertilization. So whatever structure is inside that usually produce HCG, it's what usually become placenta right alone. And this is very important, and that's why you need to take a note that HCG comes from the placenta. Now, implantation is now attachment of whatever was fertilized to the uterine lining, meaning this is when the placenta will have now an actual connection to the mother. So during these 7 days, yes, it's producing HCG, but it's not going to the mother, because we usually test mother. The mother is what we test for the signs of this HCG, which is coming from the whatever is inside the uterus. Now, this one, during the 7 days, you're not going to detect any HCG, but it's there, but it cannot leak to the mother's blood system for it to come out in urine. Now, this is after 7 days, then you have implantation. And after these 3 days, 3 to 4, but we're going to take 3 days. Now 3 days, so 7 plus 3, this is when now the HCG will start rising in the mother's blood. So after those 10 days, This is when you can test the blood, not the urine, the blood, and detect that. Now, after 14 days, around 13 to 14 days, this is around when you can test this in urine comfortably, and it's able to give you a reading, a very good reading. But then there's something you need to understand. When you are carrying something like a twin, or maybe there's something abnormal about the pregnancy, you can have abnormally high amount of HCG in blood, meaning, and especially when you have twins, because remember, twins, you're going to have two zygotes, they're going to have two separate placenta. Whatever the amount of HCG you produce in a normal pregnancy, you're going to multiply that by the number of fetuses you're going to have, because each will come with a sac that will form the placenta, because they're going to be different, they're going to be separate. So you're going to multiply that. So when you have multiple births, or maybe the pregnancy contains multiple fetuses, it means that even at day 10, you're going to have high enough amount of HCG that it can be detected. So we have the outliers, but the normal pregnancy will go around 14 days before you start getting that in urine. So you can even get that in 10 days in urine when you're having multiple pregnancies, or you have some kind of abnormal. We're going to actually have a video about those, because I have like so many things we can talk about pregnancies and their abnormalities. That's why you're going to understand everything. But now, just understand that you can have a pregnancy at 10 days being detected in urine. Now, let's go back to our guy here. Yeah. So by now we know that this is, up to this point, this is 7 days. So you add 3 more. This is going to take you all the way to Wednesday. So on Wednesday, it's justified that she can be positive, yes. But if it was a normal pregnancy, it's going to go all the way to date 14. So up to Sunday, this is when it should test positive. It should start testing positive. But remember, still here, it's still possible. Now, what do we do to ascertain whether exactly this was what happened? Whether this the lady here came to this guy already pregnant, or she was not. She got pregnant by the guy who is claiming that he didn't, or maybe the guy who is doubting. Now, we're going to do something very interesting, which is what I told you that we need a pen for. Actually, not a pen. There is something that we call LMP, last menstrual period, which is very important and very relevant in this case. What you're going to do is to find out when she started having her last menses. If it was on date 1, you know, date 1 of the cycle is when you start getting the menses. The last menses she got, the first day she started getting them. Now, this is, okay, we're going to assume she started that on date 1. What we're going to do is, first of all, get to know her cycle. She's a regular. So if it's 28-day cycle, a regular person, what you're going to observe is ovulation usually take place up around date 14. So plus or minus 2. But date 14, this is when she's very fertile. What you're going to do here, by now you can actually tell, you're going to add 14 days. So this 14 days will take us to 15. So plus or minus 2 is going to give us date 13 all the way to date 17. So if date 13, based on when she LMP, what we've just discussed right now, if based on this, she was having, or she got, but then you'll have to first of all get to know her cycle, the length of her cycle in between. Now, if it was between the 13th to the 17th, you are with that girl, bearing in mind that you said it's the whole week, then you might as well be the person who impregnated her, because this is during when the ovulation was taking place. So after your calculation here, if this date here, whatever we have arrived at here, if it's falling way before you guys met, chances are very high that you are not, because you definitely know the time that you are together with the girl. So if this is falling way behind when you met, then you're not the father. She came there pregnant already. If it's falling exactly squarely in between this Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, if it's falling in between here, then you're the father. Chances are high. I'm talking about probability here, because the only biggest thing that you can use to tell whether the kid is yours or not is using DNA. But if you remember from the so many videos that I've made about pregnancies, we can have so many types of weird pregnancies that can happen. So this is the only biggest and best way of knowing whether the kid is yours. And actually, I'm of the opinion that we should be having DNA very cheap and accessible to everyone, subsidized and mandatory to each and every person, so that this is a conversation for another day, because I'm going to break so many families not today. I hope you learned something, because if you did, then the questions I usually get in my inbox, which are kind of very simple and straightforward to tell, you can apply that to any time you're having an issue with your pregnancy, telling apart between the boyfriends, the millions of them that you have. You can use that to pinpoint exactly. But if you had the sex, but they had a question where we were talking about, she was talking about having 2 boyfriends the same day, having sex, unprotected sex, same day. It's usually very hard for you to tell between them. So it's usually very, very hard. You'll have to have a clear demarcation of days between when you met the 2. See you in the next video. But as for me, I would doubt the girl to some extent. But then you have an outlier here, because I'm a scientist. Anything is very, very possible. So I can actually tell that it can be possible based on the things that I've seen in this life and the experience I have. It can be possible that this is the dude that made her pregnant. But again, bearing on the history we have with our good ladies out here, it's actually possible, like several of my friends have said, pointed down there, she might be looking for a father, a responsible father, and she chose you. So you might as well be proud that someone can choose you. Might be as well. Or you're the father.